Good evening, everybody. Today we are going to start Sale of Goods Act. Okay. Before going into any act, we need to know its historical background. It's very important to understand the act in its better way. Okay. Initially, it was under Indian Contract Act from Section 76 to 123, but the sections relating to Sale of Goods Act was removed and a separate act was made as in the Indian Sale of Goods Act 1930 on 1st July 1930. But in the year 1963, on 22nd September, the word Indian was deleted from the title, and now the title of enactment is the Sale of Goods Act 1930. That means the word Indian was amended and now it is just the Sale of Goods Act. Okay, it's clear? Initially it was under Sale of Goods Act, which was separated and made it into a separate act. This is the historical background of the Sale of Goods Act. So moving next, why do we need this act? You have to see what is its important and why do we need such act. Okay, normally under contract of sale there are domestic trade as well as international trade. Okay, generally under international trade, where the parties are not known to each other. International trade, the parties, they don't know each other and naturally they don't trust on each other. It becomes difficult. Trusting on each other becomes very difficult. So as I said earlier, there comes a back guarantee or letter of credit comes into a picture. I hope you all remember that concept which already we have dealt in the chapter of agency. Okay, we have discussed in kinds of guarantee where bank guarantees and letter of credits under international trade where parties don't trust themselves, that purchaser or seller, they rely on letter of credits. Okay. Now coming into when it comes to domestic trade, in contract of sale, normally the price of goods is paid when delivery is made. But in practically there are several variations, like either in mode of payment by one party, like buyer when he wants to pay the price, he'll opt for different modes. Okay, or in delivery of goods, the seller may opt for different variations. Means they opt for different kinds of modes in either payment or delivery because both parties have trust in each other. There may be trust plays an important role in domestic trade. So both parties opt for variations in their contract of sale. So they repose trust on themselves. Okay, this element exists in contract of sale. But what happens when this trust is betrayed? When either a purchaser or the seller betrays the trust of another party, what happens? Okay, under such circumstances, the party aggrieved can knock the doors of the domestic courts. Here comes our Sale of Goods Act. Okay, it comes into the picture where the party betrays in a contract of sale. Okay, this is why we need a Sale of Goods Act. We have some sections which provides security either to the purchaser and also the seller, so that they can go to domestic courts in case of their aggrieved. Means if they are aggrieved in such circumstances, they can move to the domestic courts. Their Sale of goods comes into picture. Okay. Now when you see section 3 of Sale of Goods Act, okay, there is some provision like if there is any inconsistency with the express provision of the Sale of Goods Act, means if any term or any sentence or there is any inconsistency or ambiguity relating to the sections of Sale of Goods Act, then the principles of Indian Contract Act comes into picture. That is to say that when any provision or a term is silent or any provision is in Sale of Goods Act is silent, then such meaning can be inferred from Indian Contract Act. Okay, if you are not finding, I'll give one example. Like if when a term like coercion, we are very well read coercion topic in our general principles of contract. Now in the Sale of Goods Act they didn't give the definition of coercion. So when the Sale of Goods Act, it is silent about the meaning of term coercion, then it can be referred to Indian Contract Act, as well as voidable, void and everything. You can refer to the Indian Contract Act for the definition. Okay, moving to the next, the definition for contract of sale of goods. Okay, in this Sale of Goods Act, the contract for sale of goods is very well defined under section 4 clause 1. Okay, I'll give you the definition what it is saying. Okay. A contract of sale of goods is a contract whereby seller transfers or agrees to transfer the property in the goods to the buyer for a price. Means a contract of a sale, it is also a contract. It is also a type of contract where seller transfers. Either there is two modes of transfer here. Remember, first one, either he is transferring, or second mode is agrees to transfer the property in the goods. For whom he is transferring? To the buyer. Simply he is not transferring, it is for the price. So you should understand that a contract of sale is a kind of contract where a seller either he transfers or agrees to transfer the property in the goods. Property in the goods, in due course I will tell what is the meaning of property in the goods. Okay, to the buyer, whom he should transfer? To the buyer. And for what he has to? For the price. As you know that a contract without consideration is void. So in the same way, this is also a kind of contract and it should be for a consideration. So next we will see the essential elements. Out of this definition only I am taking the essential elements of a contract of sale. Okay, first essential element, there are 4 types of essential element. First one is there should be 2 parties, both parties. First one is buyer and seller. I'll just give a brief introduction. Next should be a subject matter of the sale is goods. You have to define what are goods and whatever stuff comes under the goods and what is not included in the goods. We have to see it in detail. Okay. Next, transfer of ownership. Transfer of ownership is a very important element in contract of sale. And next comes the last element is consideration, that is for price. Okay. And when it comes to the formalities, Sale of Goods Act does not describes any particular formality. It may be written or oral also. Okay, partly written. I'll read out section 5. The formalities are well defined under section 5. where it says that it does not describes any formalities, maybe oral or written, or partly oral or partly written, or maybe implied also. How an implied contract of sale is taken place? How it may be taken place? I'll give you one example. See, if a customer, when he goes to a shop and he picks up a certain thing, an article, see, think any book or something, and we just go to a counter and without saying anything, it is implied that we have entered into a contract of sale. Just he'll give us bill, then we pay and we'll just take it out and take it and comes out. That is an implied contract of sale. Okay, understood? Okay. Next we'll see an essential elements one by one. Okay. First one is there must be parties. What do you mean by there must be a parties? Who are the parties in contract of sale? In contract of sale, there are minimum two parties. One is buyer and another is seller. Okay, there must be minimum of two parties. One is known as seller and other is buyer. Okay, you can ask question. Single party cannot sell goods to himself or purchase, or a seller, whether he can purchase his own goods. The question arises here, whether a seller, he can purchase his own goods. Yes, there are certain exceptions to this, that a seller can purchase his own goods. Okay, but that I won't discuss here. In due course we'll discuss this, but the gist is there are exceptions where a seller, he can purchase his own goods, like under execution of decree. Okay, and in another cases, in auction sales also, there are certain provisions where a seller can purchase his own goods. Okay, I'll very well discuss this, don't worry. In due course of the class I'll discuss this. Okay, but here you have to remember is, for contract of sale there should be a minimum two parties. One is seller and other is buyer. Okay, a single party is not, but exceptions we'll discuss later. And second one, the most important element of contract of sale is the subject matter of the contract of sale, that is goods. We are talking about goods. Goods, goods. Only 5 letters, but it has a plenty of meaning and vast, it is a vast subject to be discussed, and very important concept to know what is a good. In order to cover by Sale of Goods Act, in order to bring under the definition of goods, you need to know that what is a good and what is not included in this concept called goods. Okay, the definition you need not worry, because the goods is a definition which is very well given in the Sale of Goods Act. Okay, under section 2(7). I'll read the section for you. Section 2 clause 7, goods means every kind of movable property. Every kind of movable property. I'll decode each and every line and word step by step later on, but as of now I read the definition for you. Okay, goods means every kind of movable property other than actionable claims and money, includes stock and shares, growing crops, grass, and things attached to or forming part of the land which are agreed to be severed before sale or under the contract of sale. So one by one we'll decode this one. Okay, goods means every kind of movable property. Here it is very simple that he is talking about movable property. Goods, if you want to cover under Sale of Goods Act, such property should be of movable. That means he is not including immovable property. Then for contract of sale of immovable property, you can ask me, madam, what happens when you are entering into a contract of sale for immovable property? Then I'll tell you, it is being dealt by our Transfer of Property Act. Okay, for all immovable property is being dealt by TP Act. Okay, now for our Sale of Goods Act, it is only movable goods. He is talking about movable goods only. Movable goods are only dealt by Sale of Goods Act. Okay, first sentence, goods means every kind of movable property. Next one, other than actionable claims. What do you mean by actionable claims? Other than actionable claims here means he is not including actionable claims. Then what do you mean by actionable claims? Why he is not including in this Sale of Goods Act? If he is not including in this Sale of Goods Act, why is referring such exclusively in that definition? Why? You should get that out. Okay, first we will see what are actionable claims. It is given a definition under TP Act. It says that actionable claims will be covered under Chapter 8 from Section 130 to 137 of Transfer of Property Act. Okay, that means it is excluded from Sale of Goods Act, but you need to know why he has been specifically said he is excluding actionable claims. So it is dealt under Chapter 8 from Section 130 to 137 of TP Act, which defines actionable claims. Actionable claim is a claim to any debt other than the debt secured by mortgage, hypothecation and pledge and etc. You need not know the whole definition, you can see in TP Act, but till here you need to see that it is a claim for any debt. Okay, claim for any debt, but the debt it is not secured by mortgage, pledge or hypothecation, etc. Okay, that is excluded from Sale of Goods Act. Actionable claims are excluded from Sale of Goods Act. Be careful. Okay, actionable claim is a claim to any debt other than debt secured by mortgage, pledge, hypothecation. That is a definition which is excluded from Sale of Goods Act. Okay, this you have to be careful, because in coming lectures you will get this has to be referred with some other things. I'll tell that. Okay, now which is the sentence other than actionable claim and money. Coming to money, money is also excluded from Sale of Goods Act. Because why you feel that money is excluded? Money which is recognized currency and which is in circulation is excluded from Sale of Goods Act, because it is very difficult to be identified and so on and so forth, but it is excluded from Sale of Goods Act. Okay, then you should get doubt if we have anything related to money, which act come into force. Okay, then the act which covers money transactions, those are money transactions are covered by our FEMA. FEMA means Financial Exchange Management Act 1999. Okay, any money transactions now specifically excluded from Sale of Goods Act are covered by FEMA. So it is clear now. But there is one exception to this concept of money. Okay, the money which is old rare coin. Old rare coins, already I have told in Specific Relief Act, okay, about this old coins, rare old coins are covered under Sale of Goods Act. You need to remember this exception. Okay, other which is in transaction, those are excluded from Sale of Goods Act. Okay, now goods means every kind of movable property other than actionable